Authorities are racing against time to put out the forest fires in southern Sumatra.
About it is you can't really go there.
This man is a cannibal who smears ashes all over his body and drinks liquor out of human skulls.
Of our cutting-edge world lies a domain darkened by the shadows of time and mystery. Picture distant districts, where the resonance of outdated customs wait neglected domains, holding on to privileged insights of civilizations imac by the hands. Of progress. Imagine clans so baffling their very presence opposes understanding their traditions and lifestyles covered in an air of significant secret. More amazing and perplexing than you could ever imagine is what researchers have discovered. About these hidden societies, go along with us as we venture into the core of the obscure, revealing the insider facts of the 15 most puzzling clans on the planet. Number 15. AWA Brazil. Deep in the verdant and throat of Brazil, where trees sing legends of ages, the AWA people exist. They are in many ways unburdened by the technological advances of today and strongly linked to the heartbeat of the earth. This jungle is not only their shelter, it is their only source of food protection that they provide in exchange for their tenderness. The AWA are true experts of the forest in which they live, being hunters and gatherers. They tread lightly through the forest and are a part of it, but their existence is under threat. Lover's Island is actually a profound critique and investigation of a world that can no longer exist. Evil people. The loggers and other forces threaten their existence in the only home they know in the forest. That's their own. This is an inspiring story of Homo floresiensis, and it is narrated in an anthropologist's account. After experiencing Flores's culture shallowly, he managed to see a spiritual ceremony of people burning the fire and worshiping spirits of the woods, together with other people. And under the sound of their voices and the scent of incense, he realized that they were dancing, and he experienced the purest, the most animal attraction to the core of the earth. The rugged appearance of a real AWA chief painted a picture of lots of spirits residing in river and trees, and that is why he was alarmed by the plans to destroy the sacred land. AWA remains a considerable proof that indigenous cultures are in extreme danger and require protection. Number 14. Karo, Ethiopia, beneath the acacia trees. By the Omar River that flows through Ethiopia's wild outdoors. A tribe lives with customs that depict the true colors of one's culture. The Karo tribe, they paint themselves with locally found ingredients. But that is not where their art ends. Scarification is another right to the boys. These marks are accounts of some form of courage or puberty or any other significant achievements. Women also have wounds that tell of grace and height, making them gain a noble position in the society. However, among those traditions, it is possible to distinguish one ritual as the radiant sign line of rates. The bull jumping. In this instance, youths compete in jumping over lines of bulls to prove that they are ready to be men. Not only physical challenge, but it symbolizes the responsibilities of being a wife and a husband, as well as the leader of the clan in their story. We recall the fact of ethnic development without the distortion of the essence of culture, as the people culture in its ancient great. Form number 13. Sarah, Ethiopia. Imagine coming across a group of people who have not been contacted by the outside world and who live in the region of southwest Ethiopia, whose beauty overpowers the social awkwardness of the young generation, who is on the look of the modern world. Another very interesting aspect of the Suma women's tradition is the kind of body decoration and painting they make on themselves. These lip plates are practiced among the females as a sign of maturity and readiness for marriage. Sumer people cannot just regard cows as ordinary animals, because they are prestigious animals in the society. In the ceremonies, they are held in highest esteem, and throughout cultural periods of time, they are considered to symbolize wealth and the upper class. However, while leading a calm life at the riverbank, the Surma had to encounter a modern-day provocation that upset their life. The construction of the Scoff-Free Dam on the Omo River in the later part of the year 2000 was a major cause for concern to the indigenous people, as this provision was a serious agitation to their ancestral homes and their culture. Although the subject of the history brought economic success and power with it, it hovered over the black dark cloud that came with the construction of the dam as regards the environmental and social impact on the Suwa and the neighboring clans, thus raising the issue of progress versus conservation. The Suma is like an untold story in the book of human civilization that is read once it is opened. Number 12, Mochen, Myanmar and Thailand. Deep in the waters of the Andaman Sea, the voice of the sea's harsh legends, there lies a unique people, the Mon. They not only live in the sea, but defend it, and are products of sea, hence deserve to be called sea gypsies. More often than not, families live in temporary communities on the islands during dry weather, but move back to their boats on the onset of rainy weather. The language which they use is quite symbolic, especially the language involving seaward, and that shows how much consumers dwell on sea waters. Legend speaks of the sea nomads, the children of Mochen blessed with an extraordinary gift, eyes that are capable of seeing with superb clarity as if the diver does not need God. While in water, some people believe that it is a genetic one, and it proves that they have been associated with the water for many generations when the Indian Ocean released its fury. In the same year, 2004, the peoples of the world saw with their own eyes the Mochen being in tune with the sea. These people retreated to higher or deeper grounds, leaving behind the wrath of the tsunami. With lesser fatalities, this event proved that they are living in harmony with the natural environment, thus caught the world's attention and admire. Hence, the Mochen tribe not only lives but retains its meaning as a community that is inextricably bound with water. Number 11, Jebue, India. In this edition, a way of life unchanged in thousands of years is now under increasing threat. The Jebue people is said to be among the first to have migrated from Africa thousands of years ago. Once upon the lush Emerald Andaman Islands, nestled amidst the whispering palms and vibrant wildlife, dwells a tribe steeped in mystery and tradition. The Gira tribe even. In the case of the Jiraiya, their important role in the world revolves around their mysterious and peculiar understanding of the forest, a source of food, and in particular, a pharmacopoeia. Knowing the cycle of the forest, they're able to skillfully use it as a source of food and medicine herbs, a way that in its nature is harmonizing with the forest beat. Apart from their expertise in the forest, the Jira present viewers with a very real look at the primitive people and their displacement genetic. Research reveals their genome history. They've been different and living in seclusion for thousands of years, mapping the former tracking route set by early ancestors. Their story of compassion of the modern world got one of the saddest chapters when the video showing tourists who are alleged to be using the Jera as beggars and giving them food on condition that they will dance for them was a such action that is professionally qualified as sex tourism, and his cultural intrusion stirred up world protests with disclosing the thin line between veneer adding the traditions and offending the contemporary values. Therefore, in the tides of the current concerns, the Harawa are philosophy's core of a resistant civilization unyielding to the stream of time. Number 10. Sentinel, India. Suppose there is a small isolated land situated in the Indian Ocean and Demon Sea inhabited by one of the most isolated tribes in the world. The Sentinel dwelling in trailers as capable hunters and gatherers. They have to fish and hunt and gather their food with the help of the thick growing vegetation that surrounds them. Their tools and weapons are made from the resources available on their island, of which can be said that it is innocent of the presence of contemporary civilization. These people, who are possibly among the last pure primitive tribes on the planet, have managed to remain hidden from the Western world. Their unfriendliness towards the other people has ensured their seclusion. Although they do not refer themselves as being seclusive to try to make contact. Once in a while, a painful lesson came in 2006 when two fishermen, Ignas Senin and Arf Rahman, dared to approach the island and meet their end. It is a testimony on how protective they are of their livelihood. From the story of Sentinel people, one can glean a distinctive message about different cultures of humanity's existence. Number 9. Dun Mali, in the African country of Mali. once a blazing land of the sun and vast energetic fields. There is Dongan, where time works to the beat of the village. Drums. Dongan people in their daily activities value unity and respect, and their habits supplement each other. Some families live within the compounds, and the grandparents rule over the family's affairs, as they are wise in all matters. Agriculture for Themis, not a means of livelihood, but a relationship and veneration of the soil from where they get their food that sustains their existence. Still, Dungan's tales do not ring in today's and tomorrow's global emis. Yet its ancient knowledge vibrates loudly. Academics listen to the discarded wisdom of indigenous farming practices and use of medicinal plants, because they realize that they offer an effective way of conserving the land and its inhabitants. However, life in Dongan is not devoid of some problems and/or evils. Politics is somewhat unstable, and the very ground on which people live has hidden problems related to the environment. However, the one area that still remains the epitome of the people's stubborn perseverance and their stand to take pride in their lineage is still seen in Dongan, an irreplaceable African strip stitched on the colorful loom of the continent's history. Number 8. HBA Namibia. Okay, let's start with the exploration of the HBA tribe. Indigenous warriors mainly from southern Angola and northern Namibia, with major concentration in the Kun area. Therefore, these people are related to the Herero crew that arrived from East Africa. In the ancient days, they are all about that lifestyle that is sort of half nomadic. The people who practice both farming and cattle grazing. What sets them apart well to begin with their amazing hairstyles, shiny traditional ornaments, and the great mixture of ochre and butterfat they use to paint their skin, and hair known as oi. Make sure they are presentable and safe for the hot, dry climate of the desert. Their organization is relatively closed with the clans headed by the chiefs, and they deeply respect ancestry as well as their ties to the ground. It really does seem that cows are very important here. In fact, they are often used as currency around here, being used for their milk, their meat, and are indicators of status from births to marriages. In fact, anything you can think of. They've got these rad rituals that reinforce their culture, their homes. Imagine having these circular crawws consisting of mud fat and other natural materials, thus almost invisible from the surrounding yet out of the water. That is not entirely true, as it ain't all for a smooth ride. Indeed, they have gone through it all. Land issues, pressure from modernization, climatic changes, you just name it. These have evoked international concern and positive discourse on how development can be done sustainably, without negating indigenous people's rights and their environments unfavorably. Nonetheless, somehow the HBA people are still afloat, enduring and absorbing into the contemporary world, though they remain as ever rooted. It's a path that has everyone, all eyes and ears, from the people in the streets to those behind their home screens. Number 7. Asaro Mudmen. Well, let me tell you about these cool dudes. Have you ever come across the Papua Ninian Asaro Mudmen? Some of these guys could write a history book on face paint. Men and women smear their bodies with gray clay and then wear these scary-looking clay masks. During their crazy acting and dancing, it is said that they were found when their competitors arrived at the door, and they had no option but to flee into the Asaro River. When they emerged, they were covered in mud from head to toe. They wore these masks, and I think it just scared the living daylights out of their enemies, and they ran away, the masks made of mud that they favor. That means it is not something which is window dressing magine, large human heads, and on these heads, some wild and insane looks sculpted into them. They use them for almost all occasions, ranging from war hunting and their significant rituals. Besides, they love their families, and the contested compound contains small groups of them that hung around in their village-like structure, cultivating sweet potatoes, and generally going about their caveman business. These guys attract anthropologists because of their cultural importance and associated beliefs. But like with the modern world coming in, they have problems staying a traditional society, With so much coming in from the Western world, fortunately there has been an effort recently to bring back their culture to at least some extent, which is mixing the old school style with some significant hint of the new age it rolls to watch how they change and sustain their traditions with the support of the local. End International Society Number 6, Huli, Papua New Guinea. The real Huli crew lives in the southern highlands of the country called Papua New Guinea. And far from the tourist trails, they certainly still raise the bar when it comes to vibing. Think of it like this. Every man coming out with those crazy-looking clay hair extensions trimmed with feathers as if they are going to a jungle party. However, these coats are not just for fashion. They are related to their identity cards to their origins, or spiritual back to their soil. There is hardly any need of moving to another place. It is all about the pride of the clan and honoring your elders back in the village. This is not a show. These old men know what they are talking about. They learned it somewhere along the line. Considering the fact that people have been around for thousands of years, life the Huli revolves around what they grow: kusos, sweet potatoes, other forms of yams, you name it, and hunting. Sure, it's about hunting, even killing, but it's also about reverence for the spirits of hunting grounds, where the spirits of the dead people who once knew these hills intimately are invoked. Their dances and ceremonies are not only performed for tourists, only they use it to control their spirits and pass their stories from generation to another. But hey, it ain't all good, for there are times when the going gets tough. Great mining rigs that have come rolling through here with their troves have dealt their share of chaos with disruptions to the well-oiled cell they have crafted over the eons. The Huli are not just a tribe. They are a process that any people of a given civilization can follow to reveal to them a way through this insane world we call civilized today. Number 5. Mercy, Ethiopia. Okay, allow me to enlighten you on the Meri people in the Omo Valley of Ethiopia. Boys have been staying there for years from the mouth of the Omo River, gathering their food and resources. Those people are rather introverted, non-intrusive, and close-minded. When it comes to their peculiar customs, their language is Mercy, which is a dialect in the Neo-Saharan category, thus bonding them in that aspect. They like to have their rituals and orgies, and wear some awesome body ornaments. I recall you had mentioned those terribly looking lip discs that were only worn by the Mercy women. It is believed that young girls of this specific tribe pierced their lips and then proceeded to add metal rings that gradually elongate their lower lips into accommodating such heavy clay or wooden discs. The tricky thing is, it's not just about aesthetics that's still extremely important, but its status now. In the past, they were people who were involved in rear cattle. Hence they were called Mercy. They also cultivate crops like sorghum, ma beans, and other crops along the riverine region. Their society is divided into age sets, which informs what one is privileged to do or is expected to do at his or her age for their part. When they are making decision, they entertain a bureaucratic system that involves the elders and the male folks. The Mercy, however, have been able to preserve their age-old culture, in spite of the developments taking place around them. The thing I found rather remarkable is that they have preserved their culture in this constantly moving society. Number 4. Menta. Why? Okay, here I go. Dear friends, what I'm going to describe is the tribe of Western Indonesia, which lies in the Manawi Islands off the west coast of Sumatra. The legend has it that these guys are like some characters from a really cool adventure story. Picture this. They are so well admired for their marvelous body paintings and tattoos. But it is not all about art and beauty. It's also an act of their religious system. Their place of abode, commonly known as, comprises sturdy timber houses that are raised on stilts and with palm thatch roofs to enable them to shield them from floods and ants. As for what makes them really interesting now, it is their spiritual life. They are probably animists. That means that they worship trees, rivers, forests, mountains, and other spirits, which are living there. They have the religious leaders called shamans, who are very vital and they ensure that the physical and the spirit world are balanced all the time and corrected through events such as birth and death, marriage and seasonal changes. Recently, they receive increasing attention globally for their eccentric culture. Now, there is a campaign to keep their traditions intact for the increasing influence of modernity. Their language is something completely different as well, largely due to young hormones surrounding them for many, many years. Now that said, things are not always rosy. Hence the following contents, they are experiencing the issues such as deforestation, tourism, and government policies that are inimical to their existence. In addition, they have had to encounter such events as earthquakes and tsunamis that have literally caused a shift in their position blessedly. They have been receiving assistance through humanitarian aid and recovery. Hence, the Menta white people aren't a mere tribe of the middle of Indonesia. They are aware of the identity and a testament to the story of survival and protection of their culture in the modern world. Number 3. Music Kai. There was a tribe which dwelt in the tropical and dark rainforests which are located in southeastern Papua, Indonesia, and which is called the Kayi. These were not just any people. They were the lords and ladies of the woods, the wild and free living, as if the world belonged to them, and the rest of the world was in the dark. For centuries they lived in seclusion, and as for contact with the contemporary civilization, it was somewhat made. In the 1970s, only their way of life was simple, yet ingenious hunting and gathering, and how they ingeniously apply a method of Sweden farming. As for the aspect of dressing, they were very simple, wearing clothes that were made from trees, especially the barks of trees. And they depended so much on trees for all they required. Palm suo, wild pigs, fish, and all sorts of fruits and vegetables were what they took in the course of a day. Both on the negative side, they did share common ground on several factors, but it was their faith that made them peculiar about spirituality. A lot has to be said, for the Kauai were considered to be strongly animistic and saw them in every aspect of nature. Even in ancestors, their culture was concerned with such spirits and the knowledge traditions received through generations. Now picture this soaring high above the ground. Their dwellings also referred to as Rumah Tinggi, or the high houses were constructed from wood and were elevated on stilts. These tree houses were not just for entertaining. Indeed, they can give protection from predators, floods, and even from rivaling clans. However, nothing is as exciting as life, which was not without its fair share of obstacles. Recently, they have been struggling to protect their territory from specific logging companies, and because the Indonesian government exercises pressure on the recognition of their land assets and identity. However, the specific difficulties experienced, the field, the spirit of the Kauai and their relation to the forest remains interesting to scholars and society. It's a story of survival and of a nation which still lives within the shades of vast greenery of the Papuan jungles. Number 2. Dan. Many moons ago in the highlands of Papua, Indonesia, to be exact, resides a particular tribe referred to as the Dan tribe. These guys are true protagonists of their traditions, especially if they are related to agriculture. This is evident in the Bam Valley. The folklore has it that these people have been idling there from the Stone Age and farming through Sweden agriculture to perfection. Picture this. They use the method of slash and burn and cut down vegetation to allow for their most preferred crop. Sweet potatoes, in fact. It is farming mixed with survival. In the jungle, the weather and type of productions are ideal for the altitude of highlands they live in. Hold on, boys and girls. Farm. Life is not the only thing about them that you need to learn. Note that the Dharni people really love and appreciate ceremonies and rituals which are held for almost every significant event in the life of any person, starting with birth and ending with a funeral. They seem to have rather unique rituals, do they not, concerning the cultural practices, the pig feasts, which include the killing of pigs and then cutting of portions in order to provide solutions to incidences of conflict or show their unity. Besides, they are all keen on retaining the purity of their soul through narration of folklore painting their bodies with natural dyes and wearing accessories made from shells and feathers. During those times, these govs were as cool as the rock and roll bands in the field of anthropology. Westerners simply could not get enough of them in the mid-20th century, flying up to the New Guinea highlands to study them. But it has not been all that rosy, or without incident recently. They are struggling with environmental problems, the issues of territory, and the influence of the living contemporary world. The efforts have often led to conflict between the Indonesian government and the Papuans, since they have not been able to accept the Western style of developed and resource exploitation practices. Nevertheless, it's a story of native people surviving and trying to hang on to what is theirs as the world changes around them. Number 1. Yali. Although the tales are true, let it be told that the Yali tribe resided in the isolated region of Papua, Indonesia, specifically the center of gravity in the highland near Balam Valley. These people were similar to the gems buried deep hidden into the mountains. They were living their own life, without being a part of the successful, ambitious world. Their history was not recorded to commence until the middle of the 20th century, when a group of explorer missionaries came across them earlier. They went on living their life, a group of people dwelling in the hall made of a palm branch in clusters here and there, preferably near the rivers or wherever there was black soil. Well, of course, it simply must be survival skills. Now the Yali were lords of the land in their garlic trials. They farmed, hunted, and gathered like there was no tomorrow. Their staple food was sweet potatoes, which were cultivated using a slash and burn method that is suited for the highlands. However, when people themselves were discovered by scholars, it was all about their organization, kindred, and peculiarities of behavior. As it happens, their language is in the bigger Trans-New Guinea group and is a match for the mountain men. They are, but I wish to say, and it must be here explained, that life was not all peas and potatoes. They're no strangers to colonization, losing some trees, resources, and governments choosing to tinker with their property rights. All in a twist. It also deprived miners and loggers of their ability to rile things up and create divisions on the basis of who uses what. Even in this, the Yali have remained indomitable, fighting for their tradition and rights as a people. They are living proof of just how resilient humans can be, how they are able to create their own culture of prosperity, even in such a highland, such Papuan region. A captivating journey through cultures rarely seen is revealed by examining the enigmatic lives of the 15 most mysterious tribes in the world. Explorers and anthropologists alike are enticed by these isolated tribes, which represent a profound mystery. In addition to their isolation, their resilience and the stories they carry are what draw people in a world that is constantly shifting. These tribes represent the unwavering human spirit and the search for one's identity. Every disclosure is a demonstration of the wealth of our planet's social texture, advising us that in the midst of the known secrets actually flourish, ready to be uncovered by those with a hunger for revelation. Music.